All right, welcome back to OffTheCryptoCuff. I'm your host, Jesse, and this is Jeff. Two friends having a conversation about crypto, politics, whatever comes about as we're talking, and we're having a drink. Basically, the conversation lasts while we have a drink. Once the glass is gone, we are complete. I'm starting off tonight. I'm having a little Bondstone Triple Oak. I've had it before on here, I think. Getting pretty empty now. Pretty good bottle, though. Really like that. So, how about you?
Yep, still on the Diplomatico. I mean,
All right.
I'm gonna have to pick up another bottle soon.
Yeah, you gotta switch things up here, man. Come on, get a collection going.
Nah.
All right, well, cheers.
Cheers. Just a man of habits.
Mhm. So yeah, the market is interesting right now. This is current day right after the strike with Israel and Iran going on. What was that? I think Israel struck. No, Iran struck Israel. Is that what it was?
No,
The
this
other way
was
around.
a preemptive attack from
Yeah.
Israel into Iran. And
Okay.
then Iran basically did put out a message to be like, hey, everybody remember, we didn't start this. But
Yeah, Israel strikes against Iran, basically.
yeah, it's kind of like an open secret that this has been a proxy war through kind of like the region. So Iran's been funding a bunch of groups that have been very adversarial. Almost everybody knows that. So, not trying to pick a side. Outside of that, is just like, you know what? Me personally, is like, I don't think the U.S. should be involved, just like we really shouldn't be involved with what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. We shouldn't be involved here. This is what I would consider a very local conflict. And if it escalates outside of this, then there's a maybe. But at the same time, you're talking about American lives, and all the consequences that go with that.
Yeah, well, we have to be careful with this for sure as a country, just because if we do get involved, then we're going to have Russia and China stepping in on the other side, which could potentially cause a world war. With everything going on, especially with the conflict still kind of going on over there.
That's also the risk with the Ukraine thing.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, as far as crypto goes, it seems to be affecting the market. Everything's pulling back. I mean, I say good time to buy, not financial advice, but that's when things are generally pulling back. That's when you want to buy. Things will hopefully bounce back. But I'm not 100% sure why it's pulling back because of it, other than just people are liquidating due to fear.
Uncertainty. I mean, that it always boils down to uncertainty. It's just like you're talking about the prices of in the Middle East. Heavy oil countries around there. Iraq's a neighbor of Iran. So there's basically a lot of potential side effects. And people trying to predict the future, and that's what the markets generally are, is what people think is going to happen. And then eventually things settle and then rebound because, people tend to go to the worst case scenario on those predictions.
Yeah, I mean, some are saying probably a deep back, even as much as Bitcoin's pull back. This is also after the Bitcoin conference. Then I think there was another. I think it was XRP or just generally crypto conference going on in Vegas. So it is what it is, right? It's just part of the market, ebbs and flows. And then, like I said, good time to buy. Buy on the dip.
NFA.
Add to your bag. All right.
Yep.
But that's I mean, I don't really have a lot today because it's there's not been a lot going on, I feel like.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit going on. I did take a look. I tried to listen to Ross Albright's speech for the Bitcoin Pro conference.
Oh, okay.
It was very general, and he was talking about kind of like being trapped in a time capsule and what it's like, being locked up for that amount of time, and the different things that evolved since he came out. Because when he went in, all that there was with Bitcoin. I think maybe Ethereum. I don't remember everything about it. Eventually it's just kind of turned off because it seemed like he was talking around in circles a little bit. But he was very positive about the entire market scape. It definitely did not sound like a Bitcoin maximalist at all. So he sounded very interested of what are the things are now available, what else is actually now possible since he's been in.
Yeah, well, good.
So there was that. I attempted to listen to Michael Saylor, but that was just hard. I couldn't make it 5 minutes. There was obviously some fanboys in that audience.
Yeah, right.
But it's just, for me personally, is like, all right, I get it. He's in love with Bitcoin. Not really going to get anything really new from him. There was actually a series of videos. I'll probably share with them, or not share them with you, maybe the audience. But it actually was giving the TLDR of the Bitcoin white paper and everything that went into it, what it means, and all that stuff. And it was actually kind of an interesting listen, especially not really having to deep dive into a lot of that technical jargon. So it actually kind of broke it down, in a way that's very explainable. And the thing is, though, is that there's a lot of parallels between it and some of the other cryptos that, we're interested in. And they might differ in how the ledgers are, do their accounting. But a lot of those philosophies do carry. So in some downer news, and one of the reasons why a lot of people on X, that could be, it's upsetting in a way, but at the same time, it's not unreasonable. And their CCO basically gave a good response on this. And so I've touted TravelX before on Algorand, tokenizing airline tickets, onboarding airlines into their technology, a seamless, thing to where nobody outside of TravelX actually knows that they're using blockchain, right? That user experience makes it seamless, all this other stuff. Well, apparently over the course of the last few months, maybe over the last year, they've been slowly distancing themselves in the language of the use of blockchain, like on their website, minimized it and then eventually removed it. And then just a couple days ago, they announced that they're building a in-house solution and separating themselves off of Algorand. And their reasoning behind that is to continue to grow. They're running into issues with airlines and privacy issues. And the way I kind of read into this is they're running into regulatory issues. And that's the reason why they're starting in like Philippines and a lot of Asian countries over areas like Europe and the US to do something like this, because of the heavy regulations that would be involved, especially when you're talking about airlines. Even though we're talking about plane tickets, almost every aspect of that, ecosystem is heavily regulated. Right. So, it kind of sort of makes sense. Now, the communication that was released said that they have not completely abandoned Algorand. They're just waiting for the regulatory environment to allow them to use it. So they're planning on coming back. They just don't know when they're going to be able to. Because effectively, it makes sense, from a technical perspective and a money perspective. Do you have one solution for all of your clients, or do you have a solution for a set of clients and then a different solution for a different set because of the different regulations?
Yeah, not unheard of, but
yeah,
it'd be nice if everything's pulled together in one. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just came across something too, little XRP news. But Basically, Vivo Power, VVPR International said it plans to deploy $100 million worth of XRP tokens through Flare's blockchain to generate yield. Basically, they're just a publicly traded company that's planning to move, and it's it's a Nasdaq listed company too, so it's it's publicly traded, moving towards crypto, and being part of it. And says the firm is part of a growing trend of public companies raising funds to add cryptocurrencies to their corporate treasures, a playbook popularized by Strategy. But the company said it will also adopt Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin as part of its treasury operation. So basically they're just moving money into it to kind of, as part of their strategy. So kind of interesting. That's $100 million. That's quite a bit of money. XRP Flare.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, and it's good hearing that there's adoption on XRP. So German tokenization protocol Midas has launched a tokenized U.S. Treasury bill on the Algorand blockchain, offering European investors exposure to yield-bearing government bonds with no investment minimum required. Mm-hmm. And that's actually huge because typically T-bill investment requires you to buy the entire T-bill, and this is fractionalized. So it actually opens up that market to basically the broad market, to retail versus, the select people that can actually afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that with even properties, like investment properties. There's fractionalized investment properties out there. I think that was something that started around COVID, 2020, 2021. Mm-hmm. I started seeing. I would imagine that crypto could support that pretty well. I think even with another one I saw was paintings, like investment in paintings, fractionalized, stuff like that. So that only makes sense,
Yeah, I forgot the auction house, but I think it was Crypto Casey has a sponsored spot for an auction house that tokenizes items that they actually buy for investment.
Yeah,
and they'll tokenize so that way when the item basically goes up for auction, everybody that's actually bought a token of that thing will get a piece of the sale.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah. So it allows everybody to be able to get into, collectible investment, art investment without actually needing the money to buy the whole thing. Because, you could talk about $1 million paintings, rare baseballs, that are signed.
Right.
These things are, not cheap.
Things that hold value and increase the value. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. But it's not cheap for just you and me type person, but it's a way to get a part of it to be smaller fractionalized amounts. Another this is interesting. GameStop raising another $1.75 billion for potential Bitcoin purchases. So it's funny that GameStop's still kicking in the market.
Man, I need to find this. I think it was.
So it required so GameStop started to pursue a Bitcoin treasury strategy early. It's also another crypto treasury strategy this year, and it has acquired 4,710 Bitcoin. So that's a pretty significant amount of money.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sending you an aid link, but this is being reported on Investopedia, Cointelegraph, Payments.com. Walmart and Amazon are exploring issuing their own stablecoins.
That's interesting. I was kind of wondering why we haven't seen anything with Amazon with that. Honestly, I would have thought by now they would have kind of gotten to the mix. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's just, what's his name?
Jeff Bezos.
Bezos just feels like he's made his money. He's good. I mean, I think there's an interview actually out there somewhere where he's saying that Amazon will go away one day. It's not, he's like, I never watched it. I think I heard about it, read about it or something like that. And basically what he's saying is like, it's had its day, and eventually it will, something else will come in and replace it, is what he was trying to say. So I don't know, maybe that's why. Maybe that's, he just feels like it's kind of like he's done his thing. He's made his money. He's, it's maintaining, there's no reason to get involved in this new technology. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah.
It's kind of like that effect. Once a company gets on so big that it's a large ship to steer as the environment changes.
Yeah.
And so basically, even if you're able to, make a pivot or a change, you have a lot of things that have to basically move and coordinate to be able to line up to optimally take advantage of the change in the market. And that's assuming that you see the change before it really has a major impact on your bottom line. A lot of times people see this too late. And one of the biggest examples of this and the funniest examples of this is Blockbuster. This is like Netflix. They started by, renting DVDs by mail. Everybody made fun of them, including Blockbuster. Blockbuster's, thought was like, well, nobody's going to do it. People want brick and mortar. They want to be able to pick it up, this and that. And who's going to want to browse a website to select what they want to watch? Right. And then they Netflix gained steam doing that. And then later on came the kiosks, and then Blockbuster was like, who would do this? And then later, Amazon, Netflix started offering streaming services. And then Blockbuster finally clued in and then tried to do the kiosks. But it was already too late, because at that point, Netflix was actually trying to be primary streaming and reducing its mail order when it was still available. And then I guess Amazon, a few others were trying to just now compete in Amazon's or Netflix's space. I mean, and by the time that, Blockbuster was like, well, let's, do streaming, it was just, at that point, just too late to move move it.
Yeah. Right. They were kind of late to the game, basically. That's what you're saying.
Very.
Yeah.
It's
interesting because sorry, go ahead. Yeah. I was say it's interesting because I feel like Walmart's been that with Amazon. Mm-hmm. They've been trying. It's amazing to me that Walmart's still around, honestly. I think Kmart is pretty much gone. Sears is gone. Those kind of big department store things. Boscov was gone years ago, I think. What's another one? JCPenney's been struggling. I think they're sort of around still, but I've seen some closing down and stuff like that. A lot of them get hit pretty hard after, during COVID. Same as a lot of the restaurant chains like Applebee's and things like that. But Walmart, it's still surviving, but it's always kind of like the riding the coattails of Amazon, if that makes sense to me. It seems like they're always trying to chase do the same thing, but a bit different, like with their own little bit of twist. So it's interesting to see that their names in this, so anyways, yeah, kind of interesting. That's, again, surprising that, at this, they're just now deciding to kind of jump in the game of it. So
I don't see it really surprising. I think it was just a matter of time.
Yeah, but they're a little late. That's what I mean. It seems like they're both a little late.
Well, the thing is, though, is that Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, they attempted to stablecoin, and they had the heavy hand of the law drop heavy on them, because of their reach, So there's probably a lot of reasons why they delayed coming out. And on top of that, we already have 3 U.S. stablecoins that I know of, right? At least the 3 big ones. You have Tether, which is probably the largest, USDC, and then now, just released not that long ago, XRP's real USD. And I think they're trying to get down the real USD to be cross-chain, not just exclusive, because it needs to get used.
Right.
So you kind of have this, and then it kind of has this arcadish type feel to it. It's just like, oh, no, so it's the Amazon token. And so if I use the Amazon stablecoin on Amazon, am I going to get discounts?
Right. Well, that's true. I mean,
there could be some localized use cases for it that could drive use. But there's so few besides feeling like a coupon, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, but I agree. It's kind of like, it's not a coupon. It's
it's supposed to be stablecoin, and effectively the equivalent to the dollar.
But I mean, I could see them giving the option and providing a discount, because now they are in complete control of the transaction, and they're not having to pay those credit card transaction bills, essentially. So it kind of saves them money, and they're passing that forward.
That's fair.
Yeah, I could see that. But but yeah, it's not a coupon. I like that. That was funny. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. There's not a lot. I mean, there's news, but it's not news, if that makes sense. It's kind of like,
there's a lot of people panicking, I think, for nothing. And a lot of people were, it's just like kind of going back to the XRP, not the XRP, but the Algorand thing.
Yeah.
Yes, it kind of sucks when there's a big enterprise integration that does end up in a regulatory headwind that slows down development. And to be honest, I was just like, it's like, the TLDR is TravelX has been known to be the highest driver of transactions for the Algorand blockchain. A lot of people are panicking because it's like, oh, our average transactions are going to go down all of a sudden. And it's like, well, and then they're like, so what are we going to do for applications if they're going away? And my response was, well, what about the ones that we build? I've got a lot of ideas. Problem is most of them suck.
It only takes one, right?
Right. It only takes one. But it's a true statement. It's just like, if you like a chain or whatever, and you have the skills, or somebody that has the skills, and you have the vision for it, just start building. The problem is that a lot of the things that would actually save me are highly regulated things. So I'd have a lot of things to look through, a lot of things to read through, and potentially even lawyers to hire.
Okay. That's
wow. And lawyers to hire to make sure that everything that I'm doing is within the law. But even then, considering how adversarial things have been done recently, that's still no guarantee that there wouldn't be even more, after all that.
Yeah.
As I said, but there are definitely ideas. There's definitely a lot of use cases. It's like, again, you take a look at the start of Netflix. You take a look at the start of Amazon. Both those creators, both of those initial developers, the people that started those businesses, they were made fun of. They were mocked because the internet was so new. They had an idea on how to actually capitalize on it and move forward.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like that's where we're at with crypto.
It is exactly where we're at.
Yeah. It's very similar, for sure.
And it is definitely a true statement. It's what is the term? The monetization of information. So so that's the next step, or the next evolution of the internet. Is the internet brought us into the information age. Now crypto is going to allow us to monetize that information.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Have you been paying attention at all to the stuff going on in California?
It's like I've been paying attention to it enough.
That's a yes.
Yeah.
I have not. I just know it's stuff going on other than that.
It's the whole. I had to explain this a little bit to somebody recently, and I was like, I can't believe what is her name? And her last name is Bass. Is it Karen Bass? The mayor?
The one that was like talking, and the senator came in and like.
No,
okay.
The mayor of LA.
I don't know. Yeah, not sure. Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting in the news. Just a lot of stuff happening out west there. Current events right now. There's. I guess it's
her name is Karen Bass.
Okay.
She said the easiest way to get the riots to stop is to stop the ICE raids. And I'm like, well, that's saying the quiet part out loud. I mean, that's almost a terroristic threat. I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's almost. I mean, it's just like, really, is this like if you're doing your job as the mayor and instructing your cops to even if it was during a criminal, in the process of a criminal investigation. In other words, somebody was pulled over speeding and it turned out they were illegal. In other words, there was a reason to interact with the person legally as if any other citizen, and during the process of that investigation, it turned out they were illegal. Her job is to direct those cops to then notify immigration services, to notify ICE.
Right.
That's their job. But she's been protecting these people. And she's continuing to protect these people.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it boils down to the census. And people forget this, is that Trump, during his first term, attempted to have a singular question ahead of the census that would actually fix a lot of these issues. Are you a U.S. citizen? That way, only citizens would be counted during the census. Why is this important? Census data is used for two numbers for power in the United States. One, the amount of representation a state gets in the House, the number of seats they get. And from what somebody else said, I forgot who said it, but basically California is up by 5 because of their current numbers. And a lot of that's because of the illegal immigration. And it counts towards the electoral college vote. So in other words, California gets weighted heavier during the presidential elections. So this is only about power. So they're protecting the illegals so they can maintain power or get more power.
Oh yeah, no,
and that's what this boils down to.
Yes.
I
mean, I saw some numbers about how many people received Social Security cards who came into this country during the administration that passed. It was a huge uptick, like literally like right before the election, because they were trying to get the votes. And it was numbers were significant. I was surprised. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I agree. Yes. I know exactly what you're saying. It's hard because, some people don't really like that so much and get a little sensitive about it, but it's also, you can't disregard the numbers. You can't look at something and say, yeah, that's not true. It's like when numbers are numbers, like those are facts. That's why there's, like, I don't know, like a lot of scientists believe in math because math's, factual. It's so, I mean, unless the numbers are made up, but I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, yes. So I guess I can see what you're saying and agree with it. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's extraordinarily annoying, especially as these demonstrations go nationwide. Especially when is the what is it, the army parade Because isn't the Army's birthday coming up?
Oh, I don't know. I should know that, right?
I would think you should.
Yeah. I'm terrible with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a praise. Well, this flag.
Saturday the 14th. It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Yes, that's what I was saying. Yeah. It's also flag. Yeah. So yeah, there's a big parade in DC this weekend. They put up all this fence around DC. They were talking about how many miles of fence they put up. It's kind of crazy, actually.
Yep, and they're going to try to do demonstrations around then too, which is going to create clashes, which is pretty much what they want.
No, I agree. It's all I don't know. I'm trying to stay away from these, the
conspiracy theories, the tinfoil hat.
Yeah, because you know what's funny? I'm seeing the conspiracy theory on the other side of the fence now too. Like the other side is all this conspiracy theory stuff.
But the Palantir stuff, and
yeah, it's funny because it's like, oh, now it's not conspiracy theory. Like I don't know. It's
what do you think about the Elon and Trump fallout?
I think that's not even a fallout. I think it's bullshit.
You think it's just that Trump's Elon's stock was falling too much, so they staged it so they could distance themselves gracefully?
I don't even think it's that. I think the news is just making up stuff. Like I think it's more, they're making it sound like more than what it really is. I think what it is Elon was leaving. He already planned to leave. Even Trump was saying, hey, Elon did. He was sitting on the cabinet meeting. And he's like, Elon did a great job. He's got to move on. He's got to go back to running his companies, but he was great. I think basically the news is trying to make it more than what it really is. I don't know. I don't like the news, man. It's like, you don't know what to trust. Like the mainstream news, it's just things get blown out of proportion. And you know what? He might've said something to him. He said, maybe he did feel a little like side hit with the whole, the big, beautiful bill, and then it's, and with this electric cars and all this stuff. I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit to that story, but I think it's blown out of proportion. There's no way they've been like friends, I guess, for way longer than we even know. I think, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Well, I'm on X and I see a lot of stuff on there, and so a lot of people are resharing Elon's tweets and stuff, and it got brutal. I mean, Elon said some really strong stuff.
Yeah, but they're both big heads. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like
they both do that.
They are very both.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to hate this term, but straight up alpha males.
Yeah.
It's like they are straight up both CEOs. They are basically both leaders.
Yeah.
And it's like, who's in charge?
Right.
Eventually there's going to be some kind of clash. I think the best explanation, and I mean, again, this is kind of like a conspiracy theory, but it's just like, Elon's businesses were getting attacked. His cars were getting torched. New ones on lot that were not sold. And
he got a lot of that
with his. There was that backlash. Right. It was hurting his shareholders. It was either he distanced himself from his businesses, which he loves, or publicly distanced himself from Trump, even if behind the scenes they're still friends.
Right. Right.
I would say conspiracy theory wise, that's the only one that makes the most sense.
Yeah. I think there is a lot of backlash that he got, and I think I agree. Yes. So, anyhow, all right. Well, I'm done.
Okay.
You are not. Okay.
I got maybe two more in there.
I gotcha. You also topped it off. I saw you earlier.
Well, I topped it off before before this started, technically.
Oh, really? Okay. I gotcha. Oh, all right. Yeah. I mean, I don't have much more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's
All
see
right.
here. Walmart exploring, because I posted a bunch of stuff. Oh, there was this huge thing that I asked. It was probably TLDR, so you probably didn't read it, I bet. It's one of those things where I asked Rocked about ISO 222 and its adoption. And apparently the migration for Swift has already started. And Swift has pretty much done their part. It's not on Swift at this point, apparently.
Yeah.
The November timeline is actually on the banks. And the way Grok, again, this is AI, but this is the available public information that it can see, which is the important part of that statement. So theoretically, it should be the same information we should be able to find, and a lot of the internet sleuths out there should also be able to find. But apparently, most banks are sticking with Swift, and Swift has actually been test bedding a lot of integrations with crypto to reduce its own costs and burden.
Right.
Now, whether or not it will pass those cost savings to the banks, that's TBD.
Right.
Because if it can start saving money and it starts getting record profits, then that could actually encourage the banks to accelerate their own plans of actually transitioning. Because once you have all these tokens, and because Algorand, XRP, there was actually a decent list. Hedera, there's a lot of cryptos that could be made to, if not natively, already support and that standard to pass those messages, and it can be done, very cheaply. And really, all that is, again, I think we've discussed this a lot. It is, a lot of people are saying it's like, XRP's got to be valued at $10,000 a token just because, banks, do these remittances, across the ocean. It's like, they're not going to be doing that. They're still going to be working within their central bank system with private ledgers for the central bank. And when they transfer money between those banks, they're going to be doing it with that protocol. And that protocol is going to do the transaction or resolve the transaction between those two ledgers that are held privately. So all you need is the transaction fee on chain to get it from point A to point B. It's going to significantly reduce the cost of reconciling. Hey, look, I actually remember the word. But reconciling basically those ledgers. But that's all it is. And you don't need a $10,000 XRP for that to happen. Call me a skeptic. I'm invested, but I don't have the expectation for that to happen. And, it might happen in a decade or 100 years. My progeny may, benefit from, the investment later, but am I expecting it for myself? No. I'd almost be surprised, if it happens, for those reasons.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. Time will tell.
No FUD. Hey, look, There we go.
All right, you want to sign it off?
Yeah. No, everybody, thank you for joining us for another episode. If you go enjoy this, please share this with your friends. Help us get out there. Be sure to like it and join the conversation, because I do read the comments and I would love to know what you think.
All right. Till next time.
Till next time.